Hello, everyone. Welcome to our 529 Enable Solutions webinar series. We're pleased to have you join us today for our December webinar, 529 Year-End Planning and Recap, sponsored by Ohio's 529 Plan CollegeAdvantage. Just a couple housekeeping items before we start the presentation. If you have any questions during the session, we invite you to submit them in the Q&A section in the engagement panel on the right side of the webinar screen. And we'll do our best to address questions as they come during the session, and we'll answer any remaining ones at the end of the presentation. And if we do run out of time, we'll follow up with you directly. If you have any issues viewing the presentation or hearing the webinar, we recommend that you try refreshing your browser. So now I will hand it over to Paul Curley, Director of Savings Research from our 529 Enable Solutions team at ISS Market Intelligence.
Thank you, Mary. Much appreciated. And welcome to this month's 529 webinar series. And today it's the December one in Pennsylvania. It's timely because it is snowing as we speak. So for me, I'm Paul Curley, Director of Savings Research with ISS Market Intelligence. And we are here today with Tim Gorrell, Executive Director of Ohio's 529 Plan CollegeAdvantage, where he's been in that role for 5 years. Previously to this role, he was the Deputy Inspector General for the state of Ohio. Prior to that, he was the Director at the Ohio Department of Veteran Services, and before that, he is a retired U.S. Army colonel. And so he's and during that time, he had a number of leadership roles, throughout his career. He's a native of Ohio, where he is an undergrad of the University of Akron. And he also has a master's master's from the University of Monmouth in history, and a master's in strategic studies from the U.S. Army War College. And also he's a CSF College Savings Foundation board member. So in normal times, I'm able to see him quarterly, just catch up and talk shop. So we're looking forward to having a great conversation about 529 plans today. And thank you so much, Tim, for joining. He also has 2 daughters, so he definitely knows and understands the importance of saving and paying officially for education. And Tim, do you want to, did I cover the introduction and bio right, or anything you would like to add?
Oh, you're much too flattering. That was plenty and more. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate being with you today.
Thank you. So jumping in, and so for today, we're going to provide, as we do every single month, some industry updates. We're going to talk about data and research updates. We're going to talk about fundamentals, top 5 trends and 529s in 2020, and the outlook. And we'll do our best to take questions and answers, throughout. Please drop them in the question box as Mary outlined. And if we don't get to them during the session, we'll definitely pick them up towards the end. And before we jump in, we do have an attendee poll. And so please answer. It'd be great to get your perspective. Are you currently a 529 account owner? And for me, I'm going to click yes, I am an account owner. Of course, for me, I have a 7 and 3-year-old. So for me, it's a long road, but it's great to start early and start plugging away. So we'll take a look and we'll pause for a couple seconds just to look at the response. On the right side of the screen, you can see in the chat box, there's a poll, and you can take a look over there. And we will give it a couple more minutes, a couple more seconds, 10 more seconds. Okay, great. I'm learning a little bit about the new system. About 82% is are currently account owners. 6% soon answered soon, and 4% and 12% answered no. So 82% yes, 6% soon, 12% no. So it's great to know that there's a number of current users of 529s. Some that are very soon opening, and of course, year end is a great time to think about it, open and jump right in. And of course, for us, and as we try to emphasize that the goal of the webinar series is really to keep that momentum going. Of course, a lot of people are working from home, but it's great to do this monthly series to kind of keep that momentum, keep college financial planning and able accounts to get front and center, for the community, sharing grow best practices, and of course from Tim and Ohio's 529 plan, CollegeAdvantage, it'd be great to learn a lot of how they see the space as well. So appreciate their time and effort as well. And for the webinar series, just a quick note that the recording for today's session will be available in the post-event survey. If there's other topics that you want to see as well, you can take a look at the past ones as well. In terms of those industry updates, couple announcements for this month, and of course, that year end does seem like it gathers a lot of different presentations, a lot of different updates. But one of the announcements is that Patricia Roberts, someone who I would consider a 529 insider, released a book, A Parent's Guide to Saving for College and Career Training with 529 Plans. A couple of things I like about the book is that, there's stories, there's her story, there's other stories, parents' perspectives. Again, it provides a very simple process and key takeaways. So I'm happy that there's a new book released in the space. Able Now launched a new app, for their account users, pretty much helping to overlook the account, see where the balances are, make distributions, and do a lot of the functionality in the plan. On November 17th, ISS Insights, our parent company, announced the Deutsche Börse acquires leading governance ESG data and analytics provider, ISS. So we're excited about there being a new partnership, a lot of great resources to do with the initiatives that we've been, that we want to do going forward. And of course, it's just great to get the scale and straight. So we're excited about that announcement. On November 24th, the MSRB released a podcast, really just sort of thinking about, even with everything going on, it's great that different systems are modernizing, a lot of different tools and tech implementations. Also from the MSRB, they asked to provide a quick note that they're seeking volunteers. I've volunteered with the group for 2 years, so I got this nice Yeti water mug. So I'm excited. Thank you, MSRB. But yeah, it's a great opportunity for those to leaders need to lead nowadays, and it's a great opportunity for people to kind of have the conversations to really help that momentum forward for the industry. So deadline's next Tuesday. So think about it and please join. Texas released an RFP for their 529 savings plan, 529 prepaid plan, their ABLE program as well. And also on December 1st, Illinois released an ABLE RFP for a new program manager for that National ABLE Alliance. 18 programs, 18 states are part of that National ABLE Alliance now. Connecticut announced a new program manager starting in early 2021 for their Directed Advisor Sold plan of Fidelity. And effective earlier last week, even Nebraska changed program managers from First National Bank of Omaha to Union Bank and Trust. And in mid 2021, it was announced that Macquarie Asset Management, part of Macquarie is the Delaware Funds investment division, and they acquired Waddell & Reed and Waddell & Reed's Ivy investment management team. So it'll be interesting to see how that impacts the plan. I actually like the fact that this chart right here has small numbers, because it really just shows that long-term chart and long-term growth and long-term success of 529s from an assets and accounts perspective. As of the end of the third quarter 2020, September 2020, that is, there were 14.7 million accounts investing 387 billion in assets. And of course, my time frame, this shows the history of the 529 savings and the prepaid plans, but we will be asking Tim later the history of Ohio. I'm humbled by their them participating in today's session, because they can obviously show that it's much, that the product has been around for much longer than that. And I believe it's 30 years. So thank you, Tim and team. So, and then on the ABLE side, we in that longer term scale, that year over year, third quarter over third quarter, obviously the assets are growing, accounts are growing, average account sizes are growing, and we are going to be releasing our annual survey of advisors. And broadly speaking, one of the great takeaways, so far is that 529s in college financial planning is increasingly part of a holistic, view to the overall financial planning that the advisor does with clients. So with that, we're going to bring in Tim. We're going to talk about some of the 529 fundamentals. we're going to change around the camera view. So we're going to have the talking heads, not the band, but the way that we'll be discussing here today. But first, welcome, Tim. And from your perspective, what is a 529 plan?
I think before we get into what's a 529 plan, we should address the question of why a 529. Student loan debt in our country is over $1.5 trillion. And that's certainly the enemy to whatever education opportunity comes after high school. As we well know, and our listeners know, that many people do go that loan route. And the average person is carrying $30,000 to $40,000 of loan debt as they're coming out of that education experience. And if you calculate in there that you're spending $400 a month to pay back student loan debt for 10, 15, 20 years, compare that to having that starting salary. Think about this. You've picked a trade, a career, a profession that you want to go into. You work hard to get the credentials for that, the degree, to be able to get into that career. You're excited about that employment opportunity. And, on average, the salary may be, let's say, $50,000 a year. So for the next 10, 15, 20 years, as we said, you're going to pay almost a month's salary a year, to pay that back. So now, what's a better way to do that? And it's a 529 to save and invest for those education opportunities. We operate from the assumption that people need to do something after high school. There's articles written, and whether that's a 4-year college, in-state, private entity, it doesn't matter if you're going to a trade school, a technical school, regardless. In all likelihood, there's going to be some expense affiliated with that. So what's the best way to get at that? Obviously, start saving and investing before those bills come due. And a 529 is simply a tax advantage way to save and invest for those education expenses. After-tax dollars are invested in a stock market options. They grow tax-free, and whenever they're withdrawn for qualified expenses, there's no tax implication.
Definitely agree. And even for that 1.5 trillion number you said for student loans, that's only the amount that's earmarked towards specifically student loans. That doesn't include the credit card debt, the car loan, the home equity loans, and all these other forms of loans that were really created by for the need to pay for college. So it's it's like that. It's a staggering number, but it's even much larger of an issue than that pure student loan debt number. And it's almost like a domino effect. It's like the leading indicator of car loans and credit card and all these other types of loans, and even payday lending is student loans to the effect. It's a very critical why. And thank you for starting at that, reminding me to start at why before the why. So I appreciate it. And can we go over the key benefits of 529 plans, and from your perspective, what are those key benefits?
Well, the benefits by the federal law, 529 funds can be used to pay for tuition and fees, room and board, books, computer, equipment, or any technology support that's needed for an accredited course at an accredited education entity. Also added to that authorized or qualified expenses as apprenticeships. We're going to talk about those in a little bit. And also there's an option to use funds for student loan repayment up to $10,000. And with that, though, it's I think important to consider. You're just not looking at the tuition. Individuals may have opportunities to or other resources available in the form of scholarships or grants or other, as I said, resources to pay for those expenses. But generally, those are just going to pay for the tuition and maybe some of the fees. People don't look at the expense. You got to live. You have to have a place to, roof over your head. You have to eat. These types of things. And so that's a very integral part of 529 is that room and board. I'd like to add to that, it's just not limited to if you live on campus. The formula is whatever a education entity charges for room and board, you can take up to that amount, for off-campus housing and meals and those types of expenses.
Thank you. And definitely agree. It's the, from where I stand, it's a great, from a benefits perspective, it's great to be able to just, save for it slowly over time. And as, one time, things, say when money comes in, being able to do lump sum contributions, automatic contributions, and just save for long-term, education for my children or my grandchildren. And just having that, from my perspective as well, just, it's a way for me to tell my kids, like, education's important. You're going to college, like, why college? And of course I shoot a lot of videos with them. It's like, what's a 529? Like, anyways.
Well, yeah, and it is. I think you raise a very good point there, because about when do you start doing this? Well, the sooner the better, obviously, is to do that. And you've heard it, and I'm sure a lot of listeners have. It's like, this baby was just born. How do I know what they're going to be? And even as they're growing, I mean, they'll change their minds about things that they want to do. But I think you create, when you start savings, you do create an expectation that something's going to happen after high school, and that's what the expectation is whether you're going to do a trade, or you're going to a technical school, or you do go that traditional route to get a bachelor's degree, or maybe even going on to graduate school, whatever the sky's the limit. It's important, I think, but not only to save for that, but also you do actually create that expectation, and you're sowing the seeds for success at a later time.
Yep, I definitely agree. And I do want to ask the one quick question. What is the short history of Ohio's 529 plan? I obviously there's the 30-year history, but can you provide a quick recap on the long 10-year great history of Ohio and 529s?
Well, back in 1989, the Ohio General Assembly and the political leadership recognized that there should be a mechanism for people to save and invest for those education expenses after high school. And so the Ohio Tuition Trust Authority was created, and the initial offering by the agency was a guaranteed savings plan. And the first credits and units to that were sold in 1990. Fast forward to the mid-90s, and whenever the federal code instituted 529, Ohio incorporated into the code a variable plan, which offered two investment options for people. One is a direct do-it-yourself type investment options, and the other was an advisor investment options. And so for the past 30 years, that's grown into what we are today. We're a $13.5 billion entity. We have over 660,000 accounts across all three plans. I'd like to add, though, that our guaranteed plan was closed to new contributions in 2003. And so the active plans and the options for people is, if they consider investing in Ohio's 529 plan, are the advisor or the direct option. Yeah,
I mean, it's definitely humbling from where I sit to know to work with on a regular basis, and to know you, and from the perspective of just being able to, having such a great storied history, and helping the very birth of this industry, but also just helping the millions of families over these decades, really. So it's humbling. I'm sorry, Tim, you're about to say something?
Yeah, you hit a point on there, and I enjoy talking about this. I've only been with the agency, as you noted, for 5 years, but I embrace that rich heritage and tradition that the agency's developed. And like a lot of plans, we're seeing, so to speak, return customers. We've had people whose parents invested early on. They've finished their education experiences, and now they're having children, or the parents who initially invested in their children are now grandparents, and they're continuing this legacy, for their children and grandchildren.
Yes, I know for me, when my first was born, it was a time of not sleeping. I'll put it that way. and from my perspective, it even took me 4 months to open up my 529 plan for Claire. And I'm very happy that I do, and have it, just automatic contribution, keep it simple, put all the gifts in there. And, but from this perspective of, I wish I watched this this video coming up right now, before Claire was born, because it probably would have helped me get ready. And so from that perspective, Mary, do you want to pull up the video so we can see the perspective of when is the right time to open up a 529 account?
Now. Yep, now. Definitely now. This is a now. That's a now. Now, now, and now. Your child's life is filled with perfect moments to start planning for their future. It's never too early. It's never too late. Ohio's 529 plan makes it simple to save for whatever school they choose after high school, wherever that school might be. Someday starts now at CollegeAdvantage.com.
There we go. Perfect. And then thank you, Mary, for pulling up the video. And Tim, do you have any thoughts or comments on the video? I know from my perspective, it's a great video, well shot, hits a lot of the great points. And any key points from your perspective on it?
No, and I think it captures it. And a point I want to emphasize is whenever you start. Ideally, it's whenever that baby's born or just before it's born, to open an account and start the savings. But as you noted, life starts getting away from you, and before you know it, you turn around and this little baby's going off to kindergarten or to middle school, or they're going into high school, and the reality sinks in is like, well, they're going to do something after high school. So like one of our partners likes to say, when's the best time to plant a tree? Well, that was 20 years ago. When's the next best time? And that's today. And for the people, 82%, have accounts. And so I guess, we're singing out of the same hymnal here to a lot of people. But we often get that is like, well, how are we going to do it? We have these expenses. All these things are going on. However modestly you start, you will not regret it. You mentioned my military career, and I have two grown daughters. Well, they graduated from college debt free. We started when they were born. I was a captain. My spouse worked in the home, and we just started ever so modestly and started putting in. And I got to tell you, there's nothing like it when your kids graduate and they go into their professions and careers, and there's no debt. It is just amazing. And realize not everybody can just write that off as not debt free, but even if you can just reduce that burden from other resources that have to come, namely from the student loans, it's just tremendous.
Yep, definitely agree. And just even thinking about it even from my perspective, right? It's like right now, my youngest is in pre-kindergarten, but of course, once he starts to go to kindergarten, it's another opportunity to shift that spend to the ongoing automatic contributions, and of course, right, that snowball effect of just that long-term nature of the saving is a great perspective. So, thank you, Tim. So let's go to slide view. Top 5 trends in 529s in 2020. So there's obviously we're in December. It's snowing here, and on my side it was probably snowing in Ohio yesterday. So then it's probably over to PA today. But just thinking about that year-end gifting and the theme around December, where it's a great opportunity. I was going into our my youngest bedroom yesterday, putting him to sleep, and there's just all these toys everywhere. And the last thing that I need is more toys from family members. Of course, I open the door and there's some packages, but it's always a great opportunity to remind folks that the temporary gifts last only so long, and actually even to that extent, if they make noise, then it's probably won't last a month in my household. Where that importance of lifelong importance of education is there to stay throughout the entire life. And as Tim mentioned for his $2 as well, it's a lifetime goal and a life time of pride. And from my perspective, just such an important life lesson that I want to hand down to my children as well. So the year-end gifting provides a great opportunity to make those gifts and make those contributions. And of course, it's not just about the parents and the children. There's the grandparents. Based on our surveys, when we ask parents that are 529 account owners, who else has an account? Usually 18% also have grandparents or their aunts and uncles. I know for my Aunt Marty, every single holiday season, growing up, I used to get the physical, treasury bonds, and of course that they're not available to get, physical anymore. I much rather would have liked to get the, gift from the aunt or uncle from, in the form of a 529 plan. Of course, now we're at the point where 529 awareness is growing. So to the extent that there's two larger themes as we kind of get to the end of this year, one is the year-end gifting, and the other is the family element. What's intriguing, and one thing that I did not know until this was also the how your team has like a greeting cards, from your website. So first and foremost, I'd like to ask you, Tim, about how your team does the gifting and just learn more about it from your perspective.
Gifting, and that's not unusual to hear what you just said about the things that kids have. And in fact, my brother has a 529 for his son, our nephew, and we contribute to his 529 each year, Christmas, birthday, any special event. And getting a contribution from Uncle Tim and Aunt Lisa to his 529 doesn't elicit the greatest joy, and my brother really has to talk it up and say, "Hey, buddy, this is a good deal," and it's much appreciated. And in the long term, like you said, after the toys or the noisemakers, quiet, this will be continue to give, and very easily, as far as with Ohio's 529, and I think other plans have similar platforms. We use the UGift platform, and simply all that the person needs to do is from the account holder to get a code. You do it right online. You make the contribution using that code to the beneficiary's account, and that's the simplest way to do that. We mentioned, and it's at the bottom of the slide, that we also have greeting cards. And if you would contact Ohio's 529, we'll happily send those out to you. And so you can at least write a little something in there to acknowledge it, and it's just not a virtual or electronic. And they are pretty cool cards. We have this fabulous graphic designer. She upscaled those this past year, and so if you do go that route, just let us know, and we'll send those cards out to you.
Yeah, great idea. Your team's always a leader, so I'm happy to have learned about their greeting cards, and from a data perspective, or even just an anecdotal perspective, does that perspective make sense in terms of there's the parents, there's a lot of grandparents. Do you look at aunts and uncles categories as well, and to make it a family goal? Or
and I think it's a good conversation to have amongst families, because I think everyone asks that what do you want for Christmas, or what should we get the kids for Christmas? And I think that conversation is a good one to have, and I think it's a much welcome gift. And and again, it's across the board. We get that from grandparents, the way your statistics reflect. I'm an example. I'm one of those data points in an aunt and uncle category, and there's the others, and it's just it's a gift that'll grow in value, and you have a part of that young person's future whenever they call on those resources for those opportunities.
Sounds good. And I guess I'll also note that this is a photographic proof that I do not just wear a suit all the time. That's me in my shirt and shorts a couple of years ago. And of course, Tim said not to talk about Boston and New England, but that photo is from Martha's Vineyard, and soon enough we'll be doing family vacations again. So and perhaps we'll go one state over this time, over to Ohio. So it'll be great to meet and greet when when things permit. Looking at the second trend is the state tax incentives and the sort of the conversations around there's all these different opportunities to do like year-end planning and sort of like make lump sum contributions and just sort of like thinking about different ways to approach that there being that element of there being a annual cycle. By contrast and comparison, we work with a team that works on many products. So let's just say like the mutual funds, and mutual funds generally don't have that cyclicality of 529s as we do, just because there's that year-end planning. There's the third quarter or the fall semester, spring semester tuition payments. But it's just so important to save and save efficiently. Just looking at do parents save and once they start saving, are they using 529s or not? But in broadly speaking, there's over 30 states that have some sort of tax benefit, whether it be a deduction or credit. So, and I thought it was timely as well that at least to ask from Ohio's perspective, is there like that December 31st deadline for your state? How does your state handle that state tax incentive?
Yes, Ohio does have a tax incentive. It is up to $4,000 per beneficiary per year. And so what that means, that's not a limit to the giving, but that's where Ohio's tax the benefit. So if you have, say, take two children, two grandchildren, and you contributed $4,000 to each of their 529 accounts over the course of the calendar year 2020, then you could take up to $8,000 off your Ohio taxable income. And that's just not limited to the account holder. We were talking in the previous slide about aunts, uncles, grandparents, anyone who contributes to an Ohio resident who contributes to a beneficiary's 529 account can take advantage of that tax benefit up to $4,000. Now, should you go over the $4,000, that's not for loss because Ohio also provides unlimited carryover. So you can carry, if you go over that $4,000 into the next calendar year and claim it on next year's taxes. And it's indefinite. So even if you consistently are over that amount per your beneficiary contributions, you can still carry it over.
Yep, and that's the amount of the contributions. And what's another benefit as well that the broadly speaking, money goes in and the money grows federal and tax, deferred, so they're like, you're not taxed on the gains or like year over year. And then when it's used for qualified distributions, it's taken out state and federal tax free. And on top of those two benefits, there's also the third benefit for, over 30 states where there's, incentives for putting that initial money in. So it's always, it's a great sort of vehicle and thank you for the update. And of course, one thing that I always reiterate as well is just not leaving money on the table. It's just simply speaking, right? It's if you want to just get good return and like why would you not put the money in when there's such great federal and state tax incentives. So when people ask me like, why do a 529 plan? That's always one of my, top four bullet points because, like, why not? Because there's such great benefits. So don't leave money on the table that, this year ends.
Well, that's the thing too. And that people get concerned about the volatility of the market. And certainly 2020 has, we've seen a lot. But just as an example, one of our partners pointed out to us that in March if people pulled out of the market and, because they were worried about what was going to happen in light of the COVID environment, they missed out on some big days in April. In fact, in market history in April. And then again, at the end of the year here, there's been some terrific gains. And so while it's hard that up and down and should I do this or not, the markets stay the course, and it is the way to go, just as you said. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I'm on, and of course, Tim, you can probably appreciate it as someone who's been in the Army over the years. Today is 255 days, in a row for me running, and on those days in in March and April, you're really thinking about all the volatility. But for me, having a 3-year-old, it's like in 15 years, we will be back to normal. So it's a long game, and you're absolutely right that the volatility is there. But on those big screens and on those like longer term trend charts that we started out with in the beginning. Lo and behold, 2008 looks like a blip. Of course, I started working at this firm or the predecessor, and I think it was June 2008. So living through it was not pleasant, but of course, in hindsight, 2008 barely registers as a slight pullback in terms of the long term purview. So, and thinking about the just sort of the education, right? Historically, 529s were used for college and the traditional college and grad school elements. And one thing that's been very pressing is very much of interest is helping all those that are seeking education and for those to tool and retool. And so recently, the more recent expansion from the Secure Act to have at the federal level the qualified distributions, for apprenticeships and student loans. And so, for top trends and themes, building upon the expansion from, college to K through 12 to more recently in 2019, and finally in the full sort of view is the apprenticeships and student loans. It'd be great to hear your perspective on apprenticeships, how your team, perhaps has a website or how your team kind of views the expansion from to college and now apprenticeships as well.
Yeah, I think this was a terrific addition that the Secure Act provided to include apprenticeships for college 529 savings. Because again, you notice that very deliberate in saying those education expenses after high school, because it does cover a wide entity. And one of the myths that we often hear of, and I know you do a lot, is what if they don't go to a 4-year college? What if this person isn't going to get a bachelor's degree? And I think the apprenticeships addition to this just recognizes those other exciting opportunities that are available. The country is building the infrastructure. COVID has slowed this, but I don't think it's stifled it. When we get back, there's still going to be the demand for these careers and these people to do things, and it's just not building the infrastructure. Apprenticeships are in healthcare, internet technology, energy, utilities, advanced manufacturing. All these areas, need workers and need people with the skills. In Ohio, an apprenticeship is defined as a person learning a career from a skilled worker and earning while they learn. The minimum requirement is 2,000 hours of time to be spent working in that particular discipline and 144 hours of classroom. The United States Department of Labor has clearly defined information about what an apprenticeship is and how those come into play. However, with that, there can be some expenses involved with it. And much like what we described earlier in our conversation about tuition, fees, room, board, equipment, these things can apply to apprenticeships. And those are a case-by-case basis. I mean, there's hundreds and thousands of types of apprenticeship opportunities. But if this is a certified apprenticeship program and there's expenses associated to that, you can use your 529 to help pay for or offset those expenses. It's just, as I said, a tremendous addition to the 529 lineup.
I could not agree more. My uncle Paul, my namesake, was a welder, and he eventually, after doing welding for 10 years, was a welder at a prison. So he was one of 3 people that could work on doors, and always had a job to the very end until he retired. So, and of course, when I was in New Hampshire, the most guaranteed job ever was probably if you're a plumber electrician. So great paths and great opportunities for those that are willing to put in the 2,000 hours and earn while learning. I love that phrase, and it's a great perspective. I think it's a great benefit to help all families save efficiently. So
it is, and I think that you can get into the conversation of 529s and what if you don't use it? What if this particular beneficiary doesn't go? But a scenario may be like a lot of high school students, or a person's not sure what they want to do, and so they go out to an apprenticeship. like to remind everyone that 529s don't have a shelf life. Maybe use some of that funding for that apprenticeship, and then later on, the person wants to get higher skilled training in that particular discipline, or go on to something completely different. Those 529 funds have been growing in that time and will be available for whatever that opportunity comes forth.
Definitely agree that there's that mid-career opportunities to pivot, retool, and great perspective. And based off of our annual surveys, we've seen more and more people use 529 plans and that over 21-year-old age range. So it's there's also the concept that I had spoken with CNBC about, where 529s is almost like a backup career plan, where it's like if something happens, you can pivot over, retool, or if you're just, hey, I want to do something different. So there's great opportunities there as well. And of course, I can roll the beneficiary down from my children to their grandchildren eventually. So there's a lot of different uses. I think that I am showing this chart just because it is so stable. It's the percentage of gross sales from automatic contributions for every third quarter going back to 2009, and it's just incredibly stable, and just provides that that gliding point over the career. For the first two topics of year-end gifting, and it's just sort of like tax planning perhaps, or just sort of planning around year-end for state tax benefits. This bullet point really reiterates, with all the different volatility that did take place in 2020, and of course, as we had kind of mentioned in that March-April timeframe, there was that volatility. But to the extent that if you just kept dollar cost averaging from that April, May, June kind of time frame, it's just a great way to set and forget. Of course, it's great to do the as being a jogger, it's great to do the long, slow, great pace versus doing wind sprints to get ready. But it's just so important to do automatic contributions. If there's one takeaway for me in 2020, it's just the importance of setting up that automatic contribution. Let's just say you start out with say 1% of your income and doing the 2%, and every year, each year goes by, perhaps adding on another percentage just to sort of glide into that point. But what is your take, Tim, in terms of the value of the automatic contribution, and perhaps when's a good time to set the automatic contribution? How, through the employer, through the paycheck, or through the bank, or what are your thoughts on the topic of automatic contributions?
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's the way to go, because you just get into the habit of that contribution. We see a lot in Ohio, and I'm sure it's across the country, that employers offer the payroll deduction, and so you just put that as an allotment, to your pay each month, whatever that amount that you want to have come out comes out, and you don't. It's like any other savings, whether it's your retirement or other things that you're saving for. You'll find that you probably don't miss that. And you realize then you're encouraged by that, because your accounts are growing, and then there may be those life events that happen, like you may get a pay raise, and so maybe you can bump it up a little bit more. Maybe daycare expenses go away, and you can bump it up more. But keeping that automatic contribution is a steady, reliable way to grow your savings and investment for those education expenses. And I certainly would encourage anyone who is saving in 529, or if you're thinking about doing it, to look at doing it that way. Paul mentioned if your employer for some reason doesn't have that option for you, certainly you can through your bank, set that up and contribute. In Ohio, it's very easy to make those contributions into your plan, and I would gather across the country, whatever 529 plan is that people are investing in would offer that flexibility and would welcome that type of contributions.
Yeah, and what's intriguing for me as well is that there's a lot of different books more recently about the importance of the process. And the parallel to college financial planning would be, instead of looking at the huge price tag of 4 years of college costs this, or grad school costs that, looking at the importance of just creating a great process. And one example of that would be the automatic contributions, and just looking at the process of saving regularly and often, and just sort of plodding along towards the goal, and thinking about the the daily habits and the monthly habits, as opposed to the bigger scheme, like, oh, I'll save when I get to this number, I'll save, if this thing happens, then I'll start saving. But just doing that regular kind of ongoing step. And of course, I'll just mention one of my more favorite books recently is Atomic Habits by James Clear, in terms of the concept of breaking down these big picture goals into like these small manageable steps. So I don't know if you want to mention anything about that, Tim. And of course, the training of perhaps the Army, where they teach you to put the one step in front of the other, as opposed to like looking at the mountain perhaps. But
well, yeah, it is. You start, with the fundamentals. Whenever an individual goes in the Army, you go through basic training. They teach you how to shine your boots. When I started, they were shining boots, and then at the end of my career, we didn't have to shine boots. But to do that, how to wear your uniform, the fundamentals, and it's just that basic discipline. And the same way with, I think, savings and investing. You just start with the basics. It may be very modest start, but then you build that habit and you build that discipline to continue to grow and to see it through. And it's a good thing to do. And think about that. I'd like to add also, because part of that, it's like, okay, Paul, Tim, you're talking about savings. How much should I save? We have a terrific resource on our webpage, and it is. I'm told that our webpage is very deliberate on that. It's not jargony, very user friendly, has tons of information on it. But among the features that we have is a calculator, and you can go in there and just plug how much money maybe you have right now, the age of the beneficiary. Pick any school in the country that you think that you want the beneficiary may want to go to school, and you can plug that in there, and it'll give you it very much. Paul would be proud of these, a chart of giving you an indicator of how much money you will have in your savings when the time comes for that. And so that can be an assistance of saying, how much should I pay or should I save in starting out? And and I think I encourage the viewers, if you haven't, be deliberate about that. Look at that, and if you are looking at 529, as you set your goals, and is to do that, set goals and have an objective. Yep.
And we talked about the website, and of course there's the different types of newsletters and blogs and like YouTube videos that your team does have. Trend 5 is really the importance of creating that plan and executing that plan, and you're just sort of like talking about the different resources, what one can go to. On one level, there's the opportunity to go to your website, call your call center, because both get very good remarks, and I think they're just great dynamic websites, but also just the call centers as well. And of course, there's also the different things for around the financial advisors. Like talking to your financial advisor to create a plan. And of course, your team also works with the BlackRock plan as well. But also we talked about talking to your employer to set up the automatic contributions. Perhaps there's the accountant, the lawyer, the estate planner. But I do know your team has a lot of different resources, for those different buckets. But I guess we can start with your, you touched upon the things on your website. So are there other components to your website, your call center? I mean, your website or newsletter? Are there? You have some other resources, right?
Well, we do. We have social media, like many businesses. Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Those are ways to get to us. We have blogs. It's always a good way. Those are current. If you go and look, I mean, we have an archive of blogs, but you're not going to go to our webpage and find something that was the newest content was from 2014. We constantly refresh that, and we think that by using the blogs and refreshing these stories, one, it encourages people to stay the course, or if there's any kind of doubt or whether I can do this or not, to do exactly that, encourage to stay the course. We're very mindful, as I mentioned earlier in our conversation, our header agency is the Ohio Tuition Trust Authority. We're under the Ohio Department of Higher Education. Very integral part of that, and I didn't come up with the name of the agency, but it was a trust. And when people are looking to invest and save, this is money that's been earned or that's a part of a retirement income that people have, and it's they very much so want to be able to trust the entity that they're giving their money to save and invest for it. And the bottom line, you're looking for to a person, whether it's your child or your grandchild, for opportunity. We're looking to give these beneficiaries a secure future. We're looking for flexibility in the plans, because if things don't go, you've made reference to my military background. Plan's always good until you have first contact with the enemy. And so things happen. And so you want to have the flexibility to adapt to any of these contingencies. And we'd like to think that our webpage offers these links and resources, and there's more videos like that we were showing here to offer that encouragement in 30 seconds to give you everything that you need to know. And so it's a thing too, and I need to, if I could backtrack a little bit about when we were talking about the year-end tax benefits. If you go to our webpage, there's a countdown clock on there, and it I just would like to remind people that December 31st, you need to have your contributions in to count for this calendar year for your taxes when you file them in 21. But it's at 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock, 1600 hours on December 31st that you need to have those contributions in.
Great. And, we do have an audience of, part of our audience are those that work in the employer benefits. And, I'll just provide a quick note that if you are an employer, like a plan sponsor or a plan advisor that sets up the plans, for the employers, if you have questions and you want to set things up, talk to Tim or go to the website and the team can help answer the question. That there is a toolbox there.
If I could add too, in addition to our webpage, we do have an operations center that works Monday through Friday from 8:30 till 6 o'clock, 1800 hours on Eastern Standard Time. You can call us. It's 1-800-AFFORD-IT, or if you need numbers, 800-233-6734. This is also on our webpage. And you will get answered right away. We take great pride in our operations center. It's nearly perfect. Like all our calls are answered within 30 seconds. You won't be put on hold. I'd like to remind people, though, that we do not give financial advice. By law, we're not permitted to do that. And perhaps the answer to your question may be to speak to your financial advisor or your tax advisor. But as far as information about the plans, how to get started, some people are more comfortable speaking to a real person as opposed to maybe doing it online, or just to verify that I read this online, I read this on your webpage. I want to confirm that I'm reading this right. We invite you to call us.
Sounds great. Thank you, Tim. So the Outlook section, shifting gears. So and I'll ask so this will be the section where we'll talk a little bit more about 2021, 2023, and of course the topic of the day kind of relates to that COVID short and long term impacts and what you may be seeing from our side. There's a lot more from where we where we sit, we see it as much more of a short-term impact. That the value of the education has only been increasing, and therefore, the importance of saving and saving efficiently, towards those goals have only been increasing. And it's great to see that pivot, not just for college education, but also the apprenticeships, going forward as well, and the mid-career retoolers and accelerators. And so from that perspective, we've seen a very, pretty much a continuation of people, saving and saving efficiently, whether it be automax contributions, lump sum contributions. And Tim, anything that you can say from your end in terms of the overall impacts of COVID and 529 plans?
Yeah, as I said, I'm very pleased that we're able to continue operations, and I'm very proud of our operations center because we had suspended calls at the beginning of the pandemic, and then we shifted our operations, like most businesses are these days, from work from home, and so we're very responsive to that. And an interesting thing with the COVID, I think, and you touched on it, is just like any times of challenge, national challenge that we're in right now, there's opportunities that come up. Also, it creates change. I mean, there's been a change in the way that education is conducted in K through 12 and colleges and universities. I mean, we're in an online environment and not on campus, not in a traditional classroom. People change their minds about what they want to do. People are inspired. I saw a news piece yesterday that is a result of Dr. Fauci, that so many more people are looking to get into medical research and are drawn to the medical fields. And that's not only for at that level, but also for those frontline people, the nurses and care providers, because of that. And that, again, times of challenge can create those opportunities. But I think it still remains that there'll need to be training or education opportunities after that. And so it's not the time to hit pause or to put the brakes on your savings and investments, realizing economic impact can cause that, and that may be beyond people's control to do it. But if you can, to sustain that, continue through it, work through the pandemic. There will come to an end. And not sure what life will look like, if it'll ever be like it was pre-COVID or not. But nonetheless, that need to save and invest for education opportunities will not go away. They may look different than they are now. They may be different than what was originally planned for. But nonetheless, it is imperative and highly we urge people to stay the course.
Right. And, and on the topic of say, like, product marketing, distribution, of course, we talked about on the distribution side, the gifting and employer channels. And, there's some of the operational enhancements related to, say, like the omnibus conversation on the advisor sold side. I think that the topic, the biggest item for the year in 2020 was probably the shift from, age-based glide path over to enrollment dates. And of course, the enrollment dates, whether it be college or apprenticeships, was one of the more larger impetuses of saying, hey, I want to save to 10 years, forward, as opposed to saying like, hey, my child's 3 years old, so invest in this option. From your perspective, what do you think was there a product marketing and distribution item for this year, and where do you see things potentially going in the next 3 years?
Yeah, you're right, and I think that says a lot about the industry, that it evolves and adapts to provide the best product possible to investors as they look at their options. It can be very, very overwhelming. We offer on our direct side, we have 24 investment options, and on the advisor side, 21 investor options. And you note that the most popular is at age base, and that shift, to a target date, works much like retirement. You have a date where you anticipate that you're going to retire, and so your portfolio works for you, to be aggressive in the beginning part of that, and then becoming a little more conservative to help you preserve wealth, as you get to that time to call on those funds to go to work for you. And I think that any marketing efforts and what we do, we want to attract people as that trusted entity that there are other ways to save, and they're not. I'm not here to malign other ways of saving, because the important thing is to save. But with a 529, you're going to get a better return, in all likelihood of the best return for what your investments at a growth rate. And so we're very deliberate into crafting those portfolios that we continue to earn the trust of people into that. And looking at, you've mentioned several times along the long haul, we take great pride in that the 5 to 10 years that the return on our plan and the performance of it is very high. It's one of the best in the country. And I'm not here to pat ourselves on the back or beat on our chest on it. It's true. And you want to look at something, not just a flash in the plan or a flash in the pan. it's important that these long-term investment strategies, the deliberateness of the plan to bring to fruition those savings and investment goals that you have.
Yep, and a very, very timely topic, and there's a lot of possibilities with 529 plans, and so we'll with that we'll jump over to the next video. Mary, if you could pull up the second video of the day.
This amazing kid is toddling, skipping, jumping, and racing into a future. So what's the best long-term plan for all the possibilities? College, or trade school, or beauty school, or maybe an apprenticeship? Well, before you settle for a typical savings account, explore the plan that can, Ohio's 529 plan. It's everything long-term savers need to be ready for almost any school, anywhere. Learn more at CollegeAdvantage.com.
Great. And before we jump off to the drop off the video, while we do the question and answer, I do want to say thank you, Tim, for the the time and insight today, the guidance. I have a whole notepad full of notes that I'll be thinking about, and I appreciate the time, effort, insight, and let's go take a look at the questions. And please start typing in your questions. I'll provide the quick recap while we wait for the questions to come in. So we did industry announcements, data and research updates. We talked fundamentals, top 5 trends in 529s in 2020. Outlook we covered. We'll do questions and answers right now, and of course we'll be doing the save the date for January 21st. But in the meantime, education is important, and therefore creating a plan for education is important. So we'll see what kind of the questions we have coming in, and as we take a quick look, I'll be sure to ask it over to Tim. Yeah. All the questions were answered. One thing that I will note was that in the chat discussion, we dropped in a number of links and resources over there, and from my perspective, I want to say thank you. Tim, any final word or closeout for this year-end webinar?
It's always good sharing the stage with you, Paul, and I appreciate the opportunity to do so today. I do look forward, like everyone does, to the time comes and we can see each other in person. So thank you, and thank you for the work that you do. We did have one question come across, and we will answer that offline. It was specific to Ohio's plan, and we'll share that response with you as well. But thank you very much.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. As Tim had mentioned, thank you for your participation. We do have the questions in there. Thank you for attending, and hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, everyone.